We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred.
With Maxwell Silverhammer.
We are nothing sacred. With cruise control. We are nothing sacred.
Oh, yes, bitches. Welcome. Yes, I am Maxwell Silverhammer. Cruise Control did not make it tonight. And again, he had another improv thing, whatever he was doing. But this is the Nothing Sacred interview with Bryan Sobolewski. I hope I pronounced that right. Bryan,
Actually,
welcome
better than they did on America's Most Wanted.
Yeah, what did they said something weird, didn't they? On America's Most, it was like Sobol something.
They do Sobolewski, and I got to tell you something. For a Polish name, I have vowels. Most of them, like most Polish names that I grew up with, was like 17 consonants in a row and a vowel at the end. So right. I don't think mine's that hard.
Ah, Sobolewski, right? That's how
right.
It is. So all right,
all right.
Well, cool, man. Well, welcome to the show. Now, for those who don't know, Bryan used to be he's a reformed jewel thief. I guess is what we'd call you, right?
You know, if you use the word reformed loosely.
Reformed loosely. Okay.
Very loose.
All right. Well, it sounds like you kind of switched your life around, and we'll take it back there a little bit. Now, first of all, you started out, your dad was a jewel thief. How did all that go down? How did you even get into that?
You know, that's a great question. It was in the discovery phase of both my brother and I's case, where, you know, you sit down with the lawyers and the lawyers say, hey, we have all of the evidence against all of you. So let's discuss what they have and figure out how we're going to address it. And they both informed us, my brother and I both had different lawyers. They informed us that my father had pulled an attempted armed robbery prior to us ever getting involved in the other 22. So out of the 22 robberies, my dad did 23, of which we didn't know he had done one prior. Now, when he approached us about the first one that we did, he didn't preface it with, hey, I did one and it failed. My brother and I were both under the impression that the first robbery that my brother and I did with my dad was all of our first. But we were sorely mistaken. So my dad's first robbery attempt was to take down a delivery salesman. And back then, the jewelry trade was very different. Now you're watching the beginnings of franchises taking over. And back then, there was none. There were no franchises out there. Long's Jewelers might have been one of the franchises that had any significance in the marketplace. In the Midwest, you had Hellsberg Diamonds. He had 800 stores in the Midwest, and then maybe one or two chains out west. But other than that, you had mom and pop jewelry stores. I mean, think about back when you were a kid and buying jewelry. It wasn't from a chain store, and there were only a couple of different companies out there importing and exporting jewelry into the country. So we ended up hitting guys that were traveling salesmen. They would go out with an entire company's product line of jewelry in their trunk, and those were the people we hit.
A traveling salesman, meaning are they going I'm going to sound stupid because I just don't know the trade, but they're not going door to door, are they?
No, they're going store to store.
Okay.
So they're finding jewelry stores, and there was, again, it was so many mom and pops. If you're going to sell to Jared as a jewelry dispenser or importer or exporter, you're going to sell to their corporation, and then they'll distribute to their stores. This was, hey, you go to Joe's Jewelry in downtown Peabody, Massachusetts, and he's got his own gig, and he gets his jewelry where he gets it. And when you go from jewelry to jewelry store, you'll see there is a difference in the type and quality of jewelry every store holds. If they sell Rolex, they're very high end. If they sell, Timex, not so much. I mean, there are jewelry stores I would walk into today and not consider robbing at all.
It's interesting. So what would be a reason for not wanting to rob this particular jewelry store?
Because the take would never be worth the risk. And none of the jobs that we did were under 50 grand because we figured just risk wise, just how my father, brother, and I were putting our own lives in danger, and then having to get rid of stolen stuff beyond that. We consider that at least 50 to 100 grand. So we knew another traveling salesman in the industry, and he knew everybody. So he was the one who basically fed us information on every robbery that we did. And he was the one that would call. These traveling salesmen would work within each other. So they'd be like, hey, I need a couple of 1 carat diamond rings. Who's got one? And they would sell within each other. So everyone knew each other at that point and knew what their territory was, what kind of car they drove, how to get into the car. I mean, you're talking essentially armored car type of situations. The first car that we had to get into was essentially armored. All the windows were bulletproof. It was a Lincoln Continental, but on the back quarter panel, there were 3 locks and only one of them opened the trunk a little bit. You still couldn't take any of the cases out. From there, you had to open another lock. And you start to see that at the time, there were people just driving around with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of product in their car. It's like a drug dealer driving around with their kilos.
So how do you get into these vehicles? I mean, as far as like what happens? Do you hit them from behind? Do you know, how's that work?
Every single one of the robberies brought with it its own sort of nuance. In the Burlington robbery, we had gotten to the point where, and let's back up. The very first robbery, we stood behind a guy's house. We knew the guy had a case full of stuff that my dad wanted. So did hit the partner that was giving us inside information. We waited behind this guy's house for him to pull up at the end of his workday. He met my dad's partner prior to going home, and he had an order for the guy. So he had $50,000 to $100,000 worth of an order that my dad's business partner rejected. He said, hey, I know I ordered this, but I don't want it. So we knew that he had at least that much in the case. Me and my brother stood behind the house of this guy in a suburban neighborhood in Framingham, Massachusetts. We were both wearing black, standing against a stark white wall. And any neighbor that looked out the back of their house at that point just saw 2 assholes standing, waiting. That's all we did. Like, I'm standing there with my brother saying, hey, how are we supposed to stand? Should we stand like ninjas? Should we try to hide? Should we squat down? It's like, these are all the questions you start asking yourself 10 minutes before the actual shit hits the fan. And my dad and my brother was like, listen, this is what we're doing. As soon as the guy pulls up, I'm going to run out. As soon as you hear his door open, he says, I'm going to run out. He says, I want you to count to 10. When you're done counting to 10, you can run out, grab his case, and then we were going to run across a divided highway. It had a median in the middle, like a guardrail. And my dad was sitting across the street in a stolen car. And we always needed a stolen car for every robbery. And the way that we did that was my dad would rent a car a couple of weeks prior. We would make a key. And then we would just go to the lot the day before and take that rental off the lot. And 9 times out of 10, no one noticed that a nondescript white sedan was missing from the lot. And if they did, they ran around for 2 days before they even knew what was going on. And by then we had put it back.
So you return the car after you're done with it then?
If we could, yeah. There were instances where we had to leave the car because we had to switch cars. And that was super important. Like, you don't want to speed away from one of those robberies. Pay attention, kids, if you're keeping score at home.
The Kia boys.
We switched. We always, at the end of every robbery, I took the merchandise in my car, and my dad and brother tended to go off in the stolen car to take any heat that may have potentially followed us.
Wow.
Yeah. So after that first robbery, we my brother runs out, and I couldn't count to 10. I was like 1, 2, 10.
Too patient, huh?
Well, yeah, and it's crazy because you think you can plan all this stuff out to the tiniest detail. And then you're behind there and the shit hits the fan and you're like, oh, the guy is screaming his head off. And of course, anybody would. So you see my brother, which is basically an albino shaved gorilla coming at you. Imagine anyone on the Patriots front line coming at you full steam from behind the garage.
Damn.
Insane. So the guy instantly starts screaming. But the problem was my brother was so big, but he could never put his weight behind a punch. My brother would rather throw you 40 feet and let whatever you smashed into do the punching.
Okay.
So he's got this guy in the hood of the car, and he's just swinging left to right. But the guy is kind of moving with each punch, almost like pre-absorbing it. So nothing was happening. I bent down to grab the case, and the guy still had a very firm grip. So, honest to God, I just stood back and I crossed my arms, and I just looked at my brother like, "Come on, that's the best you can do. Let's do this. I want to go home."
So,
And I start seeing lights pop up in the house behind me. And I'm like, dude, we gotta, I don't know if this woman called 911. I don't, or whoever was in the house. We didn't know. So lights start turning on, neighbors start hearing the screaming, and we got to move. So the guy finally loosened his grip, and I grabbed the case, and I just hauled ass, man. And I'm quick, I'm little, I'm pretty nimble. I think I cleared the median of that highway like a sprinter going over hurdles. And
Jesus, with all that, how much does the case weigh? Usually?
You know what's funny about that is next to nothing, because it was all loose diamonds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when I got it home, I thought there was nothing in it. So I sprint across the highway with the case. I throw it in the back of the car. My brother gets in the passenger side, and my dad speeds away. And the first thing my dad says is, "I don't care what's in the case. I love you boys very much." And at that point, for me, I think that sealed the fact that if he asked me to do anything, if he had asked me to rob the Pope at that point, I absolutely would have done it, because it was my inclusion in a bond that I was always excluded from. My father and brother were absolute genetic equals, and I was always like the runt of the litter.
But, wow.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, now what's interesting is, now you were probably about college age when he approached you, when you guys first did your first robbery, right?
Exactly, college age. We were both up at Plymouth State College. I was taking I was an English major, because I was like, I wanted to go to England someday. I don't know. And I went. My brother was brilliant. He was as close to as close to an eidetic memory as you can get. Like, he could tell you after reading a book what was on page 68.
Oh, damn. That's some Rain shit.
Yeah, really, really. And we all kind of had that brain. My dad's brain was very border collie-ish. You know what I mean? If you don't train a border collie to do things, that border collie is going to make your life pretty miserable. And my dad was the same way. So when we sped away, we separated. I took the case up to Dad's house. He was up in Nashua, New Hampshire, for those of you that know New England. And I'm really trying to hide my New England accent right now. I'm trying to do a good job.
I can hear it.
Okay, because it gets worse, dude. Yeah, when I get all kinds of thug life, I'll start dropping my ass.
Oh yeah. Then you'll add R's into words that you don't need R's on, like idea.
I'll tell you right now, this is what people don't understand about the New England accent, that there's a plurality to it. Like, I can say shoulder and I drop my R, but if it's plural, the suffix is IZ. So it's not shoulder. Shoulders. Yeah, I got one shoulder, but not both my shoulders. And the more that's thug life in Boston. I recently dated a girl, and she has no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, she's freaking, she wishes that there was an app that put subtitles under me so she could figure out what I'm talking about. So after that, I drove home and I opened the case, and I saw a catalog. I saw, one of those jeweler's loops that magnify things by 10 times, and there was nothing in there for jewelry. I was like, wow. I started to panic a little bit. And then I looked up in the top part of the case, and in one of the little pockets were these little white folds. And if a jeweler has ever brought a loose diamond to you, it was in one of these folds. So when you open it, there's this blue tissue paper inside, and that's the best way to get the diamond to reflect its brilliance against a blue surface. If it's white, you will see that color is off if it's if it's not as rare of a diamond. So diamonds start to get very, very cheap with the more they lose their white color. So if you put a regular diamond against a piece of paper and you see any discoloration between the diamond and the paper, that's a diamond that's color is way off.
Okay.
Yeah. So I open up one of these folds, man, and I must have opened it upside down because it sounded like it was raining sleet outside. About 15 1-carat diamonds hit the floor.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
So
my kitchen floor. Yeah. was like, it's
Damn.
raining in here. I'm on my hands and knees collecting 1 carat diamonds like hungry hippos. Like panicking that my dad's gonna walk in any minute, seeing that I had already gotten into the cookie jar. So I scooped the things up, I put it in the packet, and then I noticed there were like 20 packets in there, all of various size, all of various color, cut, and clarity. All told, that first job probably pulled us in retail, $500,000 streetwise, 150. And you got to understand that the time that we were doing this, the Angelos, and if you look up Angelos, you will find that they ran the Massachusetts mob the whole time I was growing up. We knew about them. We knew that when you went into the North End in Boston, not a single restaurant wasn't mobbed up. My dad grew up around mobsters in Chelsea, Massachusetts, right near the docks. And, stuff would come in from China and the mob would grab a bunch of, the T-shirts and the really cheap stuff and then send it off to any of the coastal towns. Salem. I'm going to use Massachusetts accent now and say Revere. It's Revere. There's not about Revere, Mass. All of those coastal towns is where they would tend to try to dump their wares that they stole. But my dad frequently remembers growing up, 2 doors down from his house was a bar called Heller's Bar. And that was a Bulger bar, Whitey Bulger. And after Whitey Bulger gave up the Angelos to come into power, and I'm not sure if you know who Whitey Bulger was.
Yeah, I recognize the name. Yeah.
We could never have done what we did while the Angelos were in power, because either the Angelos were protecting half the people, or the Angelos would have approached us and said, "We want, 70% of what you took." I mean, that was anybody that they were protecting, you can't touch. And anybody that they weren't, they expected tribute. So we could not have robbed 22 stores. We might have gotten away with 2 before we got thumped or absorbed into a crew.
Right. Either way, you're gonna have to share your winnings, as it were.
Yeah, without a doubt. So you think that you rob a jewelry store and you're like, okay, well, now I have $500,000 worth of jewels. If that's what the cost is retail, you're lucky to get 10 cents on the dollar for that, because most people that would have to buy it are taking on an enormous risk. Enormous, because the first place they start looking, you think, I'll just go to a pawn shop and dump 100 chains. No, dude, I don't know how many chains you could go into a pawn store with right now before you raised a red flag, especially after a robbery.
Well, you said something interesting in an interview I listened to, where you said you don't go to pawn shops to sell this stuff because obviously there's sort of there's a bolo kind of thing, like, this is what's missing.
That would be the first place any logical person would think to dump something like that. Otherwise, where do you get rid of it? It's amazing right now that short of you robbing a bank, which would give you the raw material to buy whatever you want, the next thing down is either rob a drug dealer or rob a jewelry store. But now you have a pile of cocaine. Where are you going to get rid of it? And most normal people that would ever get involved in something like this would have a very difficult time dumping them.
Right.
So with jewelry, it's even harder, because the police know that the first place you're going to go is try to trickle it out in pawns, and that's where they go, in pawn shops. So most pawn shops at the time were getting what they called the blacklist. And if there was anything distinguishable on any of the jewelry that you stole, usually serial numbers or the stamp of the company that made it, that's what they start looking for in pawn shops. So pawn shop owners are told and shopped all the time by police.
I would assume they would be.
That's what you have to do if you're going to ever try to catch these people.
Yeah. Is it a pawn shop?
It is always, I will guarantee you, as a detective that is in charge of figuring out any of these types of crimes, the first place that they will look after a robbery is to see if any of that merchandise starts to show up on that level. Wow. So any jeweler in the world, if you go in and you say, hey, my mother died and here's a ring and this is her estate, or she had a couple of pieces of jewelry, everyone will buy it. All of them. They'll gouge the hell out of you for it. But no one would turn their nose up at it. Now, there is a limit to what you could bring in there before they turn their nose up and say, hey, I better call the cops because I know they were looking for this.
Right,
So
right.
they probably know ahead of time before you're walking in that door that you have shit. Now, the other thing about jewelry that's amazing is it's universal currency.
Hmm.
Everyone
So
in the world takes it.
so regardless of where you go to another country and sell the
Yeah,
shit.
absolutely. But you know that's really hard to do. I mean, how do you travel with a suitcase full of shit? I mean, we have a
Right.
suitcase full of loose diamonds. Again, it's not the kind of thing you see every day ever. And it raises red flags right away. I could walk into a jewelry store and say, "Hey, I got 10 1-carat diamonds. You want them?" I'm leaving in cuffs. You know
Right.
what I mean?
So where was your place? What was the spot to get off your goods?
Well, it was after Bulger took over that allowed us to just run amok. I mean, we did 22 stores in 5 years. We were doing three or four a year. It was like once a quarter.
Wow, wow.
We would put something together, or my dad would orchestrate something, and we tended to just have jewelry parties, like a Tupperware party. You know, my dad had a list of contacts. You know, my dad sold what you would call the first versions of software, like way back before you ever sat in front of a PC or could even think of holding, you know, back when cell phones were the size of a shoebox.
Yeah. Oh, a PC was the size of a truck.
Oh my, yeah,
You know?
and my dad was in that world beginning where like back when you know companies were using big computer systems, my dad sold a version of software that took away static shock. So walk across a carpet, touch a computer screen, you smoke the company's computer system.
Right.
So he had a very large territory. He knew a lot of people. I mean, he was a salesman, so that was his job. And all the people that he would meet, like in a bar, then he would just roll out a velvet roll of jewelry, like with chains in it, and you would be shocked at how many people would come over and see the shiny trinkets.
So wait, he was a software dealer by day
Yeah,
and jewel thief by
yeah.
night?
Yeah, well, you know, the more I replay it with hindsight in my mind about why my dad got into this and why my dad was ever lured into this type of thing was my dad worked 19 hours a day and he did really well. He was the first in our family to go to college. He went to Wentworth School of Technology, which is like a cheap MIT. My dad was really smart, really driven, and worked his ass off. And we made what he could never see in a lifetime in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Maybe not even 20 minutes when you think of the actual execution time of the robbery. I mean, there's tons of planning. There's weeks of it if you want to do it right and execute a robbery efficiently. And that was always, my dad was like the Bill Belichick of robberies. He's like, come on, guys, we could have done better. We could have got the merchandise into the truck quicker. Come on, let's rally this. And every single situation brought us a little bit different of a scenario that we had to handle. So that first robbery was just snatch and grab when you think about it.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Now, the second robbery was the other thing that really set the tone for how we were able to do what we did for as long as we did, because my dad presented it as another guy who was ripped off by a bunch of people, and these people said that this guy that we were going to rob had a jewelry store, a freestanding jewelry store in Seabrook, New Hampshire. And they just wanted the cash that was in the safe. So they said, if you go in there and you take the store down, you need to get into the safe, get us our money, and then you can have the rest of the store. So take the whole store down. All we want is what they said was $50,000 in cash.
So they recruited your dad and you guys.
Correct. And it was the inside guy, our inside co-defendant, that was giving us the information about the store. Now, you will never hear about a successful jewelry robbery that was just, hey, we just cased it, ran in and ran out. It doesn't happen. It's never going to happen. And there are too many things that a jewelry store will do to prevent you to be able to do that. If you don't have inside information, you can't be in and out of that store in 90 seconds the way you need to be. And why is 90 seconds important? Because that's the average response time for most police municipalities.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask you about that 90-second rule. You talked about that too at some point.
In and out in 90 seconds. My dad would hit a stopwatch. Let's go. We're in. And again, there was a lot of finessing up to that point. And depending on the store, if we were going into a store and we knew that we had to get into the safe, my dad would go in with his girlfriend. and they would be well dressed, and my dad could charm the pants off of a snake, and they would just thought, hey, this is my fiance, we're getting married, we're looking for loose stones. Always go in looking for loose stones, because what you're seeing in the cases are never loose. You're seeing set diamonds, and you're an idiot if you buy a set diamond, because a good jeweler can hide every flaw that he wants to hide in that, and upgrade a diamond 2 or 3 grades just by setting it the correct way.
Could that alarm somebody though? Like, hey, wait a minute.
Well, no, you go 100%. So the protocol that an insurance company will say for you, if you are selling loose diamonds that way, and the markups are way better for those guys, is that when you go back into the safe and you take a diamond out, that safe has to be locked again. Before you go back in it. Now, most people would just leave it open if they knew there was potential for, tens of thousands of dollars worth of profit sale. So most jewelers were lazy, and my dad would make sure he sent them back to the safe 2 and 3 times to ensure that laziness would eventually make that guy leave the safe open.
That way he could
in one of the robberies, my dad found a false bottom. So he opened the safe, there was nothing in it. And he's like, Jesus, we did this and we have nothing. I mean, I was clearing out the cases, but he pushed into the false bottom and it popped up, and it was heaven.
Wow.
Yeah.
That person was trying to be preemptive, sort of.
Well, it's insurance companies, man. You're talking about having, hundreds of thousands, close to millions of dollars worth of jewelry. I mean, if you have 10 Rolexes in your store, dude, you have a lot of money worth of jewelry.
Yeah.
And an insurance company is going to say, no way are we going to insure this if you're going to keep it in a glass case during business hours, because we've all seen the snatch and grab types of robberies.
Right.
I'm going to go in there, I got a hammer in my pocket, I'm going to smash that case, gather that stuff. That's why you're starting to see armed guards in jewelry stores now too.
That's Spike, who wrote Split Decision with Ice-T. We had him on probably about a year ago, and he talked about that kind of thing. Where that's what they did.
Yeah. And you need a ball peen hammer to do it. And now there's a layer of plastic in most of those jewelry cases, which means it doesn't shatter the way, Hollywood would make it seem.
Right.
Remember, this is the same Hollywood that shows Bruce Willis diving behind a couch during automatic gunfire, and he's okay. You know what I mean? Bullets go through couches, folks, just so you know. So
couch will protect you. Yeah.
At that point, man, it's, can you get into the safe at that point? The second thing that is absolutely nerve-wracking is, how do you subdue the person that you need to just get down and quiet?
Right. Well, you need them to open safes for you, right? Or do you have this?
Again, depending on the situation, it was my dad goes in with his girlfriend and gets the guy comfortable enough that my dad knows that there's two or three loose diamonds there. So he didn't return them to the safe. So you have a decent idea that the safe is open. Then when my dad, we had a signal. So it would be wait a certain amount of time before my brother busted into the front door. My brother would bust into the front door, go over the case, and take the guy down. From there, we have to figure out how we're going to subdue this guy. So it was either duct tape or handcuffs. And I'm sorry, but there were no interwebs back then. I couldn't just pop online and choose between multiple types of handcuffs and
right.
Stuff like that. We found our first pair of handcuffs for the second robbery in a porn store.
Oh shit.
Yeah, they were really pink lace handcuffs, man. We were like, this is humiliating. I couldn't take the lace off because I was like, Jesus, imagine this poor guy. Like, this is what he has to look at after I cuffed him to the fucking sink.
I don't know, man. I'd be laughing, I think. Like, what the fuck? Lace handcuffs?
So we cased this store. And casing is a huge part of pulling off any robbery of this type. And casing is just basically, how well can you know the backdrop? How well can you know your surroundings and the environment? Because as much as we thought we could control an environment, it's absolutely unpredictable. There were robberies that we controlled every aspect of the environment, and the ones that we couldn't were nerve-wracking, and this was one of them.
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, I wanted you to continue. I was going to jump into the other thing, but go ahead.
We cased it to the point, probably the first week, it was me, my dad, and my brother just sitting in a car across the street from the jewelry store. And I started to notice that, we started to stick out. When you become part of a backdrop, the people that are part of that backdrop start to know the backdrop. So they started to notice us. And that's when it started to get to the point where I had to just do it because my dad sticks out like a sore thumb. So does my brother. And, part of the reason why I didn't do as much time as them is they didn't get me on every robbery because I was average height, average weight, average hair color, average penis size. No, that's not true.
You got to measure that too, man.
I was just average everything. And when we were all arrested, I was put in multiple lineups because the DA or the attorney general, we didn't have a DA, we had an attorney general because it was a multi-jurisdictional case. They put me in multiple lineups because they wanted to prove that I had done just as many as my dad and my brother, but couldn't. I got out of all of those lineups.
Wow. Just because you looked just average. You didn't really
Well,
stand
you
out.
gotta understand what is a police lineup. Anything that you see in the movies is bullshit because they have to put the people next to you look as much like you as possible. So right after I got arrested, I had a mullet. Like I'd been growing a mullet the whole time in the 80s. So by the time I hit the 90s and everybody was like, no way, I'm sleeping with you with that mullet. Mine was in full. I had a full mane.
Oh, damn.
And I had just gotten back from Mexico for one of the robberies in one of the lineups that I was going to be in. So I was super tan. So I was described as Hispanic there. Now, as soon as my dad and brother got arrested, I shaved my head. And I got pale as fuck. I can tell you, blood was going to this head because the paranoia took over.
Right.
And so they had to put me in lineups with essentially other cops because that's what I made myself look like. I said, fuck it. I'm just going to look like every cop I see on the street. And so that's when they do a lineup that is presentable to a jury that a jury would believe. Now, if you put 5 people, 2 of them are black and 3 of them are Asian, and I'm the only white dude in it, that's going to be bullshit. That's never going to fly to any jury or any evidence. Like you're almost telegraphing it. You know what I mean? Or showing your cards.
Right.
So they put me in a lineup with 5 other state police officers and one homeless guy that couldn't even stand up.
Okay.
So I'm standing in this lineup thinking to myself, well, what the hell am I supposed to do? Like when the guy comes in, are the other guys going to look at him or are they going to avoid eye contact? Do they look up? Do they look down? Do I acknowledge him? It's just so nerve-wracking at that point. And I can tell none of the listeners have no sympathy for me at this point.
Well, I'm just thinking, how do you? Well, we're pretty and people who listen to us are pretty non-woke, man.
Oh, good.
So yeah,
that'll work out well for me.
Oh,
And so I just said, hey, if I'm in a lineup with other cops, I'm going to do what a cop would do: stand at attention, not make eye contact, and stand as if I'm, military. And that's what I did for most of the lineups, and I didn't get picked up for a single one.
So the lineups, is that where they bring you in? You have to go into the police station and they're going to put you all together?
So basically you hold a number and the only references I had at the time was Running Scared, which was Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal, the old cop movie.
I remember that movie.
And so remember when Snake was in the lineup? He was standing there with 5 other uniformed cops. And they were like, number 5. And he was number 5. And then you go to Seinfeld. And Kramer was in a lineup once. And he was number 5. And I started to think to myself, before all of these lineups, this is what hits my head is, just don't be number 5. All of the fucking lineups, guess what number I was?
And you're always 5.
Number fucking 5. I'm like, is it subliminal or something? But no, man, I wasn't picked out in any of them. So
wow.
Back to the Woody robbery, the Seabrook. We parked. He had 2 picture windows in front of his store. We watched him all day. We knew he went into the store just before 9 o'clock, just before he opened. He was always strapped. He had a 45 under his arm, and 45s are scary, man. They're bigger than peepholes. That barrel, and he always took it off prior to opening the store. You don't want to greet customers while you're strapped.
No.
It makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, exactly. Oh, he's got a gun here. Huh?
and we got a van so we could pull up in front of one of the picture windows that was in front of the store and kind of block it. So we pull up in front the day of the robbery, and we all get out, me, my brother, and my dad. And imagine what this crew looks like. My brother has gloves on. I didn't put mine on yet, and I wasn't going to put mine on until we were inside and the guy was down. My brother's got, pink frilly handcuffs in his pocket, and the guy had like 6 huge display cases in the front of the store. Then there was a divider, and it went into the back room where the safe was. So the plan was, Kev was just going to go. My brother was just going to grab the guy when he thought it was a good time to do it. And how the hell do you determine that? Get him down, cuff him. We're going to drag him into the back and then cuff him to the sink that was in the back that we knew was in the bathroom.
Okay. Oh, so you take him to the bathroom. Okay.
Take him to the bathroom, cuff him to the sink, duct tape his mouth, and then we can go through the store and get the hell out of there. Dad always went for the safe. I always went for the cases. Kev always watched the guy. Now, you also have to keep in mind that my brother's a type 1 diabetic. And as a type 1 diabetic, if his sugar went low, he got violent.
Oh, shit.
And that was a concern while my brother was holding a gun, because if his sugar went low, you didn't know if he was going to shoot all of us. Like, he was indiscriminate in his violence. He'd kick the shit out of my grandmother if it was possible. You know what I mean? Like, he's in a state.
Right.
And that was a huge concern to me, especially since this robbery was going to require that we were all armed. And when I talked to my dad about it without Kev being within earshot, my dad and I both decided Kev wasn't going to have any bullets.
Oh, his gun's just for show.
Yeah. And Kev didn't find that out until prison. And I can tell you, I've never seen my brother more angry in my life.
Your gun never had bullets in it?
Never had any fucking bullets.
That's like a cruel joke, man.
It really is, man. He was like, "What? You let me?" I was like, "No, it's fine. I always had the 357. My dad always had this little 22. We were always fine. But Jesus, imagine my brother's sugar going low, and he decided, he's Clint Eastwood, and hang him high, and just starts killing us all. He would have shot me first. I fucking guarantee it."
But couldn't he? Obviously he must not have been too gun savvy, because you can kind of tell if there's a magazine in the gun or the bullets.
I'll tell you that prior to that, way before we ever started robberies, my dad always had a 22 because he always had jewelry. He was always he always kept like a little bit of jewelry to sell wherever he was. He just loved it, and I came home from college by myself once to his house, and I found the 22. And if you've ever been a victim of bullies or felt, weak in your life, when you hold a gun, it's really the most fucking powerful thing in the world. And I was like, wow, this was great. I'm looking at the gun, and I was also respectfully afraid of it. And I'm looking at this gun, and I'm like, wow, the James Bond fucking theme song is playing in the back of my head. And I hit this little thing on the side of the gun, and the clip hits me in the foot.
Right. So it's inside the gun. There's obviously a clip in there.
So the clip comes out and it hits me in the foot, and I'm like, shit. I pick up the clip and I put it on the counter. I'm like, okay, it's unarmed. Now all of a sudden the James Bond comes out, the inner James Bond, and I'm moving around the house, and all of a sudden, boom, and it goes off. There was one in the chamber. And if that's never happened to you, if you've never dispelled a weapon or discharged a weapon by mistake, I stood there for probably what felt like 20 minutes thinking, all right, maybe that bullet traveled across and hit the neighbor's kid, and everyone's freaking out and waiting for sirens. Like it just weighed on my brain, like the multitude of things that could have gone wrong in that scenario. If my brother was standing in front of me, my sister, anybody was standing in front of me, and and that went off. So it fucked with me bad.
And I'm that mystery too. Like, did I shoot somebody? Like you said, the neighbor's kid. Like,
I'm like, holy fuck, that could have hit the anything. Could have hit the neighbor's dog, and I would have been equally, probably maybe a little more upset.
Wow.
I like dogs. I found the bullet slug in one of the cabinets.
Oh.
So I pull it out, I fill it with wood putty, I put the gun away, and I just steadily tried with the cover up. Just don't ever think about it again. That next day, my brother comes home, and I'm like, dude, I knew it was the wrong person to tell. I knew it was the wrong person to unload on, but I confided in
no pun intended.
Yeah, I said, Kev, this is what happened, and it went off. And he goes, where's the gun? And I said, Kev, please don't go get it. He goes, where is it? And he goes and he gets it. And I'm sitting on the couch and there's a pillow right next to me. And he's got the gun in his hand. And I'm like, Kev, put the fucking gun down. He goes, you know what your problem is? You don't respect something like this. You don't respect it because boom, and it goes off and it hits the pillow next to me.
So again, another round of the chamber.
Yeah, another round. Well, no, he never removed the clip. He, he's gun savvy, waving the fucking thing around. And it's like, it would have hit me right in the gut, dead. You don't survive an abdomen gunshot. You just don't. And that pillow was a testament to the fact that neither one of us should have held firearms.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but it's interesting how you could get away with fooling him to letting him think that he had bullets in his gun when he didn't.
Yeah. Well, during one of the robberies, his gun fell apart. Like he did the same thing as I was. He was just playing with it. There's a lot of downtime during these things, and it fell apart, and he still didn't get it. Like that was why me and my father scrambled to put the 9mm back together, because we thought Kev would be able to tell he didn't have bullets.
Wow. Yeah, that's.
We ended up during that robbery when Woody came out from the back to let us in, he was still strapped. So he knew something was up.
Wow. So now the one you handcuffed to the sink, was that the guy?
We didn't handcuff him. So we're in the store. We're standing. My dad's setting up the scenario to get Woody to go back and make sure that the safe is open. And the story was pretty good. My brother was acting as somebody that was getting married that weekend. And my dad screwed up on buying the wedding bands and whatever scenario I don't even remember hearing it, to be honest with you, because I was too nervous. And then the guy goes in the back for like the 5th time to get a different loose stone. And I said, Kev, what the fuck? What are you waiting for? And he's like, something's not right, man. That gun on him is not right. It was like one of the things that we knew wouldn't be there. That was a confounding variable. It was a variable that we thought wouldn't be there, and then it was. And it threw out the whole energy of the robbery off, and we walked away.
Oh, so you never did that robbery?
We never did that. A week later, Woody, the owner of the store's best friend, walked in there and blew his head off.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it was on the news. I have articles. There were 3 articles written about this. The guy went in doing it with the same fucking thing we were going to do. Same scenario, the same people that said, hey, we just want the money in the safe.
And this dude shot him.
Yeah, and this dude shot him in the head. That was his way. Now, I don't know if Woody did the same thing and there was a struggle, but the guy left the store with a duffel bag full of the cases, everything that we were going to take, the cash, murder weapon, all of it. There was actually glass from one of the cases in the duffel bag. He brings it home. He's instantly suspect because somebody took his plate down when he drove away. And I got to tell you something, that's not a normal thing to happen. That sounds to me like the cops were looking for probable cause and just saying, hey, we got an anonymous tip that, your car was in the area when a gunshot was heard. But
right.
They posted somebody outside of his house, and 2 detectives went in to question him. During the questioning, he has to go to the bathroom. He crawls out of his bathroom window with the duffel bag while his uniformed police officers across the street, and stashes the bag under his neighbor's house. Now, I got to go get a warrant from a judge before I can search somebody's house, but the neighbor's house, nope, don't need it. I can knock on the dude's door and say, hey, there's a duffel bag stashed under your porch. And that's how they got him, man. They found $50,000. They found all the jewelry. They found broken glass, the murder weapon, Woody's blood. And the guy's doing life in Concord State Prison. And that was our 2nd robbery. We didn't rob anybody, but once that reverberated throughout the jewelry industry, man, everyone laid down for us. Everyone laid down for us.
That's interesting because I know from what you say and probably from what we heard from Spike, the big thing was to not shoot anybody. You know what I'm saying?
That's helpful.
Right. Like that was something you never wanted to do, from what I understand.
It is, because you know what? When shots are fired in a city, that's a big deal, man. That you don't understand how much, like, the aftermath of that, the people that sit back and say, hey, those, like I did when I fired that gun mistakenly, any of those bullets could have gone anywhere.
Right.
So after all was said and done, and I got out of prison, there was a robbery done in my hometown. And as the robbers were leaving, the owner came out and they exchanged gunfire.
Oh.
That's a huge deal, man. That ain't right, and nobody stands for it. And then the heat gets worse. There are
Yeah.
definitely degrees of heat. And if a firearm is discharged during a robbery, man, holy shit, are you going down, man? You're doing 75. They're gonna throw everything at you.
Yeah. Because it's attempted murder now.
Yeah, 100%. No, they'll come up with. Listen, when you look at my charges, you see that they trump up shit. You know, they just the night before they're like, hey, you know, call the legislature. We're changing the law just so we can nail this guy to the cross. They'll
So,
do it, man.
wow. Wow.
It's also just so dumb because at no point did me, my father, or my brother said, hey, let's look up the sentencing guidelines for some of these things that we're doing. So maybe it'll change our minds.
Well, yeah, back then you didn't
We
you didn't
are
have
on-
that.
Yeah, as tough as we are on crime, man, no criminal thinks of the consequences prior to the act.
No way. No.
No, it never happens. Sorry.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, it wasn't like you had Google, you know, where you could say, what do you get? You know, now criminals can do that. They can actually look up, you know, what's your.
God bless Google. Yeah, God bless it. It's good for nothing. Name one thing the internet's good for.
Oh man, there's all kind. That could be have all kinds of great. It's like anything, man. You know, like people say guns are bad. Well, guns can be good sometimes. You know, so I mean, everything has its place. I think.
Yeah, in this day and age, man, I think it's not about shooting; it's about being able to shoot back. And it's so funny with all the guns that we have in this world, you still haven't heard of a single person shooting back in an active shooter.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
Not a single one of the. Maybe there was one, but I've never heard of anyone. Now, if everyone has a gun, the way I just left Florida and I dated a girl and she had 5 guns and only 3 rooms in her house.
Damn.
Like that's 2 more guns than rooms in your house.
So,
and I can't have any because I'm an ex-con. I'm just at a disadvantage.
yeah. I'm sure you don't want if you could, right?
Again, I hate them. I don't think that there's any good reason to have one. I really don't. And I wouldn't. I wish because you know, my dad and brother ended up having one post robberies and everything. And as this story continues, you'll find out what happens to them. But they shouldn't have been able to have a gun, and they could get. And right now in this country, it's not about whether or not you can have 1 or 10 or 100. Right now, I can private sale a gun to anybody.
Wow.
So I can go do all the things that the government has put up and the roadblocks in the way of trying to keep a gun out of somebody that shouldn't have one. But now that person can private sale that gun to anybody. And that's how Waco stockpiled shit. They bought guns on the second I bought the guns legally. I can sell it to anyone I want. And when I asked the detective after my father and brother died, how they got a gun, given that they were both, you know, star-spangled ex-cons, he said, you know, that gun could change hands 35 times after the original sale. That can be traced. But after that, you have no idea how many times that gun could potentially change hands legally.
So that would be like if you were my neighbor or something, and somehow I say, hey man, you want to buy a gun?
Yep, you can do that.
And then they'll allow that? Really?
Yep.
Okay.
At least at the time in Florida, yeah. He says that's pretty much how it goes. You can private sale a gun to anyone you want. I guess that's how Waco ended up with a kitchen walk-in freezer full of AR-15s. They have bought it all secondhand, second market.
That's wild. So it really, I think it's, I guess, varies state to state. Depends on where you live. I'm sure.
I don't know. I'm not going to sit down and look this shit up, which was my original point is criminals do not look at consequences prior to premeditation.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? So so after that robbery, man, it made everybody very paranoid. So it hurt us and helped us. Everybody would lay down, but people were 100 times less likely to meet me, my dad, or my brother anywhere. Because I'm not intimidating, but my father and brother were. And at that point, we couldn't get a single salesman to meet us anywhere to set them up. Unless we had our own storefront. Now, to do that, let's say you want to open a 1-800-Flowers. I don't fucking know.
Right.
You want to go rent a store. You got to present like it's like renting an apartment. You can't just walk in and fill out an application and know they want ID. They want some type of credit account. All of it leads back to you.
Right. Which
It was
is
very
good for you.
difficult to be able to do that. It was very difficult for us to be able to rent a storefront to get one of these people comfortable enough to come and visit us without having a paper trail. But
Man.
my dad did it.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't know how he did it. He found a little tiny store that was in a strip mall in Burlington, Massachusetts. He paid the guy cash, gave him a assumed name. I don't know what bullshit story he gave him, but now all of a sudden, me and my dad and my brother and my brother's girlfriend are waiting for one of these travel salesmen. His name was Bob, and we knew he had an entire product line in his trunk, and he would only come to a established store with a female at the front. That was the owner. Nobody would trust a man. It was that's just what happened after the murder. And we set it up, and this guy started to trust us. We knew we had to subdue him enough to be able to talk to him to find out which keys on his keychain opened the locks in sequence, which one didn't set off the alarms, how to get into this, how to get into that. So this was, although we controlled the environment, it was still a very difficult job to be able to pull off.
That's crazy. So you built it was like you have your own store to
Yep.
bring your victims to you.
Yep. This was our probably, besides the second robbery of our very first victim, the guy whose house we stood behind.
Right.
This was our biggest robbery. We got 8 full. I'm talking about, like, think about the biggest bag you could check at an airport. Like, you have to check it if it's this size. There were 8 of them in the trunk.
Oh, goddamn.
2 big trash bags full of manila envelopes that my dad told me to leave. So we finally, the thing about this robbery that was so fucked up is that's where the gun fell apart. Now, always keep in mind that every single robbery, like when you think of what you're bringing to it, you have a duffel bag, you got duct tape, you got the handcuffs, you got extra bullets, and you got Jolly Ranchers in case my brother's sugar goes low. I mean, it was just like, it's like everyone had a Jolly Rancher in their pocket in case they had to pop it in my brother's mouth so he didn't start shooting blanks at everybody. Now that would have been a shit show.
Wow.
This little store had this little tiny wall that wasn't load bearing. It was just a partition. And we didn't check the tensile strength of it. We didn't, we just thought it was a sturdy wall. So the plan was, you walked into this store, there were empty jewelry cases in the front, and my dad's girlfriend would greet him. And my dad would be in the room as a construction guy measuring for carpet. He just had and he was just in the front. So we needed dad to be in the front as Bob moved his way to the back of the store. My dad was behind him. Me and my dad were on either side of that partition wall of the door, waiting for my dad to push Bob through that door. Once he pushed Bob through the door, my brother grabbed him and pinned him against the wall. And I went right after his gun. The problem was my brother pinned him so hard against the wall almost fell.
Oh, because it's a partition.
Yeah. So imagine we're standing there. Anyone walking by that store would have seen a wall fall. My brother holding a guy, me fishing through his pockets, and it would have just been a shit show. So the thing wavers back and forth, and finally, we were just so paranoid because we knew, especially after that jewelry guy died, all of the traveling salesmen were armed. And that was just another thing, is now you're going into a situation where the other person is armed and you're armed, and the likelihood of a shootout is high.
Oh yeah.
So it's just when you think about this being an adrenaline rush, it is absolutely that, but it's the type of adrenaline that is slow burning. Imagine getting just a little bit of heroin out of that needle rather than getting the whole dose, and just enough to keep you comfortable enough to still do it, but not comfortable enough to take away that feeling of holy fuck.
Right. It's not explosive. It's like,
okay. No, you jump out of a plane and you get that adrenaline all at once. Then you fold up a parachute and you're on your way home, man. No, not for this. Not for this. And I went after, as soon as my brother pinned him, I went after the gun, and I was brought to instant peace when the gun was in his back pocket, buttoned. So I had to unbutton his back pocket. It was in a holster. The holster was buttoned. This guy would have had 4 bullets in him before he ever got the gun out of his back pocket.
Because he's got to fight with the button.
100%. And then there's a button on the button. And in the moment of panic, you're fucked. And it was just, he had it, and I knew I had to get it away. So I got it, and I tossed it off to the side. And then we put him in a chair. And my job, since we couldn't cuff him, his feet also, was to duct tape him. And this is one of the charges that I got a kidnapping charge out of this and robbery through confinement. Two charges. Yeah. So it's not enough anymore that these very, very ambitious attorney generals are charging you with things. I mean, the guy that knelt on the other dude's neck, the cop.
Oh, Derek Chauvin?
He's charged with first, second, and third degree murder, dude. For one dude.
For one person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, first, second, and third degree murder are all specific criteria. Now, if you don't meet all of the criteria for first degree murder, we do second. You can't give me the full boat, man. And that's what they're doing now.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's which is crazy. You're right.
It's
they hit him with 3 counts.
So I get kidnapping, which is just a horrible thing to say because the word kid's in it. And you don't goat, you don't think baby goat, you think fucking a child, man. And that ain't right. You don't ever want to be in prison for a kidnapping charge. I can tell you that. So that first of all is a tough thing to explain to other inmates. But robbery through confinement, I'll take that. It sounds a little better, and that's what we're doing. But when you hold somebody against their will, you are in fact kidnapping.
Yeah. Well, I've heard it's if you take them into another room or take them from where you got them at first.
Oh God, there were so many nuances to the law. Like there's breaking and entering in the nighttime, and it's worse if you do it in the daytime because I guess you're more bold or some shit.
Right.
Masked armed robbery. So the sentencing guidelines for armed robbery in Massachusetts at the time were 3 years was the minimum to life. So the judge can sit back and say, okay, let's look at the conditions of this case. Who was hurt, blah, blah, blah. And the judge gets to, at his discretion, decide between 3 years and life. Masked armed robbery starts, the minimum sentencing guideline for masked armed robbery starts at 25.
Wow.
25 years is the minimum you can get for masked armed robbery. So you see what they mean by, like, if we had just decided that we wanted to cover our face, I'd still be in right now. This interview would be very different.
Wow. So why is it? Because you're covering your face, you're concealing your identity, and that's why
it's like the more brazen you want to be, the more you want to get away with it, the more we're going to punish you. But Jesus, how backwards is it?
Except if COVID was going on, of course.
Well, Jesus, once COVID hit, I called my dad and I was like, don't you love this world now? Can't get masked armed robbery anymore. This is beautiful. Actually, if you're unmasked, they probably charge you with more because you're spreading COVID.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would be that's because that for a while that was murder.
So the Burlington robbery, man. After we got him down, I start duct taping him, and I over duct taped this poor prick, man. I overdid it to the point where my dad had to tap me on the shoulder to get me to stop.
You were continuing, had like one of those tape guns or some shit.
Holy crap, man. It was just it was bad. And we had to talk to him, and I taped his mouth, and he had a beard, and we had to take the tape off of his mouth. It was just awful in every way, shape, or form. And then I get out to the car and I start unloading the car, and we get the cases, and we're going in and out of the store to bring the cases to the back where my car was. So we're cleaning out his car, and my dad starts coming out with me because I'm like, Dad, I need your help. There's a lot of cases in here. And he's helping me, and I grab the 2 trash bags, and he's like, leave the trash bags. And I didn't. I took them with us. And I drive away, and it turns out that my father, after I drove away, took Bob's license and said to him, listen, if you don't report that you were robbed by 3 black men, we're going to come kill you. And I didn't know that happened, and that wasn't part of any plan.
So he had his address from the license.
Yeah.
Okay,
and the fact that he said, say that 3 black men robbed you was just, I don't know, man. It just was weird to me. Something wasn't right about it.
Led back to you guys, that's for sure.
It certainly wouldn't, but I'll tell you what, Calmer's a bitch, because once we were in prison, and I can send you the article that where my dad was sentenced, they put that in the article. And I am in prison with 2/3 of the population is African American. And they're like, what the fuck, bro? Like, we don't have enough problems anyway. We got you fucking running around saying we did it. It was just bad. And it just pushed us over an edge that, like, at that point, I thought we were like Robin Hoods minus the tights. And here it was just thugly and ugly. And another part of it that was really didn't settle well with me was while I was going back and forth with the cases, a cruiser pulls into the mini malls part like this little shopping center's parking lot. And I watched the cop the whole time. Of course, I'm shitting myself while also not shitting myself. It's nerve-wracking to have a law officer be in the same parking lot. But I went in and I told my dad, and my dad decided to turn around and signal to my brother that a cop was in the parking lot. When me and my dad were out at the guy's car, apparently my brother cocked the hammer of the gun.
Oh shit.
And the guy heard it. The guy heard it and started begging for his life. And that's still that's the kind of shit that still keeps me awake some nights, you know? You just think about what that must have been like for a guy. Anybody taped to a chair and wondering if they're going to see their family again. And then they hear a gun cock, especially after a guy just died the same way.
Right. Well, and
wow.
he's cocking the gun for the cop, but obviously this Bob guy did not see him do the signal for the cop.
Keep the guy quiet. My brother's like, you got to keep quiet. And he cocked the gun, and it was just, the guy said, please don't kill me. And I'll tell you, the only moral compass in all of this was my brother. I mean, before we went after the second guy, my brother I woke up in the morning and we're laying there. My dad went to the gym the morning before a fucking robbery. Like, who needs to do crunches before a robbery?
Hey, he wants to be prepared, man.
Hey, do a couple curls, make sure, sleeveless.
Yeah, man. That's right. Get that adrenaline going, man.
And I'm laying there, and all of a sudden I hear my brother say, hey, Bryan. And I was like, what? He goes, are we bad people? And it was a tough question. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, we're bad people.
We are. But you're also dealing with Lenny from Of Mice and Men that could kill you by showing you how much he loves you. So part of my job really was to keep Kev calm, collected, because we needed him, man. I'm 150 pounds, man. I ask you for all your jewelry, and you're gonna look at me like, I don't know, man. I think I can take you.
Well, he was the muscle, though, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when my brother asked you for your shit, I don't even think my brother needed a gun. He demands your shit. You're gonna give it to him. You might give him more shit than he asked for.
Right. Wow.
So we needed him, and it was just he was in all 22 of the robberies. I was not. I did most, but there was a point that I went into rehab. There was a point that I started going to college, and there was a point that both me and my brother wanted to be out. We didn't want to do it anymore, man. We were like, why do we keep doing this? I mean, we had a safe full of stolen jewelry. We had money up the ass. I mean, it's the same story. You've seen it a billion times in every fucking movie of this type.
Right.
We had everything, and we should have stopped, and we couldn't get my dad to stop. There was always a number he wanted to reach that kept going up.
Well, I like how you said he was trying to do paint it for you guys as if you're doing a Robin Hood thing. Oh, the guy's a scumbag.
Everyone, yeah. But I mean, that's like saying, hey, we're going after a bad drug dealer. What the fuck is a good drug dealer? I mean, like, we're gonna get a bag. Like he only sells to kids. But that's how it was always presented to us, and we never questioned that. And at the same time, it got to the point that, well, who the fuck are we? Why are we? You know what I mean? It's just the risk just got higher and higher and higher, and the rewards got lower and lower and lower. Nothing was as good as Burlington until we robbed the first guy again.
Damn, really? You went back for the
my dad had a hard on for this guy, man. My dad didn't like this guy, and my dad thought it was egotistical for the guy to stay in the field after we had taken him out.
This is the house guy, right? That you guys.
This is the house guy, Jacob.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that robbery was set up a lot like Burlington. It was my dad just rented an office space. So these big office buildings. He just rented this little, I don't know, it was like 2 rooms. And again, it was the same scenario of getting this guy to come to the room and subduing him and taking everything that he brought with him. Now, you also have to understand that as we kept doing this, by the time we had reached the 4th robbery, nobody was wheeling in a dolly full of real things. So, okay, let's say I own a store, and I'm like, come in and I want you to furnish my store. you're going to come in with your product line, but you don't walk in with a dolly full of suitcases like we got in Burlington and say, here's all my shit. What would you like to choose? You
Right.
technically go in there with either a catalog or fake product line.
Mm.
So that was the reason why we always needed to know where the real product line is. We didn't want to walk away with shit.
Oh yeah, yeah. You want the good stuff.
Yeah. And there were a couple robberies that we did.
Mm.
Yeah. We got whaled with fake shit. So when we got Jacob in, and this probably at this point was robbery 15 or 16 when we got Jacob again. Same scenario. We tape him to a chair and we get the case and we're on our way out. My dad's the last person out and just decides, I don't know, something about this didn't settle right with him. He goes back to Jacob tied to a chair and pats him down, and he had two underarm holsters full of diamonds.
Oh, and that was the real shit right there.
Oh, that was the real shit. So Jacob didn't care that the cases that he came with were being stolen. My dad was like, he's a little too comfortable. He's a little too happy that we're leaving. And something said to go back and pat him down. And that ended up being as big a robbery as Burlington. But I'll tell you, all the other ones were just, I do a podcast episode called Kill Bill and Rob Scott. And my dad, and I record calls with my dad. So I didn't want the podcast to ever be just me talking the story. I started calling my dad and recording calls so you could hear how my dad felt about all this and the details he could give about this. So I think I play a call right from episode 1 in my dad. So if you listen to the whole episode or go to the end of the episode, if you don't want to listen to me go on and just hear my dad, go to the calls that I recorded in episode 1. I think there might be 1 and 2. And then I have him as a regular contributor to the podcast in season 1 before he dies.
Wow. I'm going to have to go back. I heard the last one called Swan Song.
Last one. Yeah, I called it Swan Song because it was the very last time I was going to talk about the story. Now, there's only 4 seasons of the podcast that tells the story in greater detail than my book could. Of the same name, Family Jewels is on Amazon right now. And as much as I am proud of the fact that I could sit down and put a collection of words together that equaled the book, way too many agents in the industry asked me to change the story to say things that weren't true.
Oh, so that's why you did the podcast.
Yeah, well, they wanted me and Kev to be much younger, so it didn't sound like we were adults that had a choice. For some reason, they thought viewers would sympathize with us more, but I don't want sympathy, man. I don't want anyone to watch this story or listen to the story and be like, "Oh, that poor kid." We caused the taxpayers of New England some shit, man. We ran amok for 5 years.
Man, and this is how long did you guys do the fake jewelry store before that it sounds like you were
that was just a one-time thing, dude. After that, we're never doing that again. We could never find that scenario again.
Okay, so this is a one-time thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
And the rest were just going into stores, 90 seconds in and out, knowing what we were going after. If we couldn't find what we were going after, we had to get out of it and walk away. One store, once there were certain stores that once you get in, they can lock you into.
Oh, yeah. You said with the vestibules and the other doors, whatever.
So if you go into a Long's Jewelers now, that's in I think they're a chain in Massachusetts, you will not be able to open one door and hold the second door open at the same time. There's such a distance from each other that both doors, when they close, they can lock you inside. It's bulletproof glass, so shoot all you want. Cops are on their way, and you're just a caged animal at that point.
Oh, wow.
With one robbery, we knew about that. We knew about the vestibule, but we also knew that the guy had a very thriving mail business. So you could call him and say, "Hey, will you mail me $150,000 worth of shit?" He would heavily insure it through FedEx. And then when the FedEx guy pulled up, somebody came out, or the FedEx guy would come out with multiple boxes. So we knew that was the situation we wanted. So
you go after the FedEx guy, not into the store.
And we did that more than once. So the first time that we did it, it was in downtown Boston during fucking Christmas.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So the original plan was the guy's going to come out of the building that we knew the jewelry store in. He's going to have a bunch of boxes. He's going to walk down 3 blocks to FedEx, and we were going to just sit inside FedEx and take him in the store. And I was like, well, wait a minute, man. Is this federal? This was the first time I was like, hey, what are the consequences of this? Are we?
Oh, yeah. These are FedEx employees.
Yeah, so I didn't like that idea, and my dad didn't like it either once I brought it up. So we just planned on robbing him just outside the FedEx store. So the
Oh,
plan was we had we had walkie-talkies.
oh shit.
Yeah, so dad was at one end and I was sitting in the vestibule of a McDonald's that was right under the jewelry store, and I was waiting for the kid to come out with the boxes, and we would check in with each other back and forth. Um, Apparently that same walkie-talkie frequency was picked up on the jewelry store owner's police scanner.
No.
Yeah, yeah. So he heard everything, and he sent 10 boxes of catalogs out. We took the kid down and we drove home with catalogs.
That's what you got for the take.
Yeah, and yeah, 100%. It was awful.
Oh, fuck. When did you
Another
figure
series.
that out, man?
What's that?
When did you figure it out that he had a scanner in there and he's listening to happen to hear what you guys were talking about?
It sucked because I, of course, took the boxes and I'm driving home with them. And by the time I get home, I open one of them and I'm like, shit. I open another one. I'm like, shit. So by the time Kevin and dad walk in, I'm like, catalogs, that's all we got. It was just, that's when my dad really wanted to kill our inside guy. It was like, how did that, it wasn't his fault, but my dad's like, this was just too much. It was too much risk to get 10 catalogs.
Yeah.
It was just heartbreaking. But in that scenario, you would think dad would just quit. But no, it was okay. We were always jonesing for that first hit, that first Burlington. It's always, can we just do one more of those?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Again, as stereotypical as it is my dad started to get very cowboy mad. He was just going nuts. And again, keep in mind, we didn't know he had done a robbery prior to ever bringing us in.
Right. So he was already kind of seasoned before he brought you and your brother.
I still to this day, and I ask him in the podcast, I'm like, Dad, what the fuck? And he says, I say, what prompted you to fucking go home after that robbery and pull us into it? He goes, who the hell else am I going to trust?
So, okay, let's go back to that for a second. How did he present this to you and your brother originally when he first pulled you guys in to this
He said that guy Jacob had ripped him off. That my dad said he had invested his life savings, 30, I think my dad says 30 grand in the podcast, to import diamonds from Israel. At the time, all diamonds went through Israel. All diamonds on this planet that were mined from anywhere went to Israel. So a great book, if you want to read, a true monopoly on this planet was De Beers. De Beers is a chain store. They basically were the mob of diamonds. So if you found a diamond mine or tripped over one, De Beers showed up and started thumping your head until you gave it over to them.
And these were the guys. Oh, okay.
These were the guys. So basically, they sold lots, $800,000 lots of diamonds, which were varied in color, cut, clarity, and hopefully you made your money back when you sold it. So depending on your relationship with De Beers, you either got a spectacular lot or you got shit. And this guy was supposed to bring in a lot of diamonds. So my dad hands over 30 grand. My dad's business partner hands over 30 grand. And the guy just pretended he didn't even know my dad when my dad went to collect.
Oh.
He's like, I never invested that money. I don't know what you're talking about. My dad's like, oh, really? And he drove, and especially after that first robbery going bad, my dad drove home and originally brought my brother into it. He's like, let me and you, the muscle, go down and talk to this guy. And my brother was all about it. And then the first night that my brother stayed behind that guy's garage, because it was 2 attempts before they brought me in, my brother just said, I need Bri. And they came home and they sat down and they said, now I got to tell you something. As much as anybody right now might be listening and saying, Bri, you were 20 years old when you started. You were 26 when you went, 26 when you went away. That's 5 years of you doing this as an adult. Anybody would try me as an adult. You would think I'm an adult. I vote, I could drink. So I made my own decisions, but I know deep in my heart, with all of the soul searching that I've done throughout all of this, is, I tried to rob a store before my dad. I used to
really,
I used to be addicted to coke, and I remember being out one night after a binge and pulling up in front of a 7-Eleven. And I had my dad's little 22. This was before we robbed anything, before there was even like the hint of it. And I was fully intent on going in that store and robbing it. I sat out there for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and I
And you
couldn't.
didn't.
I couldn't, man. I just didn't have the balls. There's just so many things that you run in your head while you're coming down from cocaine that could have gone wrong. And I was rational and fearful enough, and I think rightfully so. I went home and I went to bed.
That's
But
crazy.
when my dad put that same fucking gun in my hand and said, "You're doing this because he ripped me off and he ripped other people off," there was no question. I don't remember my dad asking me to be involved in this, and sitting down and asking to ponder the moral ramifications.
And little did
Just,
you know you'd be this accomplished jewel thief years later. You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah, it's on my resume.
Wow. That's crazy. So you're originally going to do just a regular store robbery type deal, and you couldn't bring yourself to do it.
When I think about how much I should blame my dad, like how much of this is on him. So much of me puts that out to other people. I do podcasts like this so other people can listen to it, because I never lived a normal life. I never. When I see normal people, I'm envious. I'm in awe of people that just do regular like soccer practice and go to basketball games, and that was never my life. And the first thing that I stole, me and my brother helped my dad steal was a house.
Mm.
We helped him steal 2/3 of a house. And it's like, well, how the hell do you steal 2/3 of a house? When my father and mother got divorced, my dad couldn't afford another house for himself. He was paying alimony and the mortgage on the house my mother lived in. So he bought
Okay.
a little piece of land out in Groton, Massachusetts, and he just poured the foundation, and we capped it. We just put a cap over it, and we stayed in it on weekends, and weekend nights we would drive around to construction sites and steal the rest of what we needed to build the house.
So this is real. Like you guys actually.
No, this is real. We stole 2/3 of that house. Basically, we stole all the 2x4s from framing. A housing development was doing all the framing. So at night we would just pull up in my dad's station wagon, load the fucking thing up. When we ran out, we'd go the next night. The hearth for my dad was built out of curbing done for the Nashua Police Department. Main Street in Nashua, New Hampshire was redoing Main Street. And we just pulled up one night at midnight, and all the curb was being set. And my brother got out. I took one side, he took the other. We picked up a 600-pound slab of concrete, of granite, and we threw it in the back of the station wagon. And if you've never seen a Chevy Cavalier 2.0 4-cylinder drive down a street with it shocks and suspension system tested,
it's dragging,
yeah, sparks flying. But my dad would sit in that house and have a look of satisfaction on his face, unlike I have seen to this day.
I'm thinking that song by Johnny Cash, "One Piece at a Time."
Yeah, that was it.
That's what it reminds me of.
Listen, my dad was the last of a generation that if you left him in a field, you'd come back and there'd be structures built.
Wow.
You leave me in a field for any length of time and you come back, the only thing I can build is a resentment. Like, that's it, man. I'm like, fuck this place, I'll leave. But my dad could take raw material and turn it into stuff. So as kids, we didn't even think, when we pulled up in front of a pile of sand and my dad said, "Hey, we need this to make the cement for the bricks that I'm going to put in the living room." We didn't think anything of it. It was a pile of sand to us. It was a brick. It was stone. It was wood. But man, go out and steal a fireplace now that's already built and you're stealing something. But back then it just didn't feel that way to us.
Well, funny enough, how it was going to be the curb originally, now it ends up your fireplace.
Yeah, we're sitting down on that curb every day and cooking s'mores.
So you mentioned your issues with drugs. Well, cocaine, I guess, was your drug of choice, it sounds like. So was it just you that had the drug addiction, or did your brother and dad?
It's funny. You would wonder why, after being so stimulated by adrenaline, we would choose stimulant. For me and my brother had a tradition after a robbery to get a half ounce of cocaine and just sit in a hotel room and just chill. Like, it was like waiting to see if bombs were going to go off. So the very next morning after a robbery, after we'd been up all night, just all coked out, I'd go downstairs and I'd grab whatever papers were available. We'd bring them upstairs and read about the robbery, if there was any information out there, if anything. And if there was, it made us worse. get another half ounce. And he was really just trying to numb all the emotion that comes along with the fact that once you do this, and I don't know, man, I don't if anyone romanticizes this idea of what we did, but once you cross that line, once you break a law that they want to come and find you for, your life becomes very different. Your reality changes. The looking glass becomes very opaque, and you know that at any point you could be plucked from freedom, from life itself, and it changes. So, I'm not going to say I enjoyed the cocaine any less, but
was it sort of an alert thing too? Like, well, we got to be alert, man. We got to be ready just in
yeah,
case.
100%. Yeah, and both my brother and I were depressed, and I have a degree in substance abuse counseling, and that the people with anxiety tend to go to the opiates, the people with depression tend to go towards the stimulants. And that was him and I. Like, it could have easily been heroin if either one of us had, that other side of bipolar where you're manic more than depressed.
Right. Wow. That's crazy. Well, and here's funny enough. I mean, you're talking about him with his blood sugar getting low and how he could be dangerous. And now both of you are coked up or, coke users. So, I mean, that's right there a recipe for disaster.
And I don't know how the hell my dad didn't notice 4 days later, us coming home 50 pounds lighter, dehydrated, and we slept for 2 days, how he didn't know that was somehow part of this. Because after the Burlington robbery, those 2 bags of trash that I brought in were full of invoices, and my dad was pissed. My dad was like, Brian, I told you to fucking leave those, build a fire and start burning them. There's evidence in the house now. And as I was going through it, man, I pulled out one of those manila envelopes, and it looked like a Jackson clone convention. They were 20s. There was 10 grand in one envelope.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So I ended up pulling 50 grand in cash. Yeah. 50 grand in fucking cash out of that trash. And I remember as I'm burning invoices thinking, bro, you're such an idiot. You're terrible at armed robbery. As soon as I pulled open the thing full of cash, I turned all kinds of British. I was like, oh, father, could you come hither? I've found something you might like.
That's a pretty good British accent, man.
Yeah, he shut his fucking mouth once he saw that cash.
Talk about righteous indignation, man.
Yeah, oh, it's great. It's amazing. And when you do it with a British accent, it's just so much more satisfying.
Right. It's kind of like, you fucked up.
And me don't speak trash.
Well, it's good, man. So were you guys actually on America's Most Wanted?
No, I never. No, but God, would I have loved to have been? And that's just such the beauty. Like my first and probably last appearance on the show was as a consultant, but now I get to book myself as the guy that was on America's Most Wanted. And you're automatically going to think that there was a manhunt for me. No, the manhunt that I had, and I'll tell you, I felt like I was receiving an Oscar, is because my dad was perp walked. And if you don't know what a perp walk is, it's when they're like, hey, we're going to cuff you. We're going to shackle you. We're going to put a coat over your head. And the police want to be seen shuffling this guy from the courthouse to a cruiser. Like, that's a badge of honor to the police, the arresting police officer.
Okay, so the news media gets this on their cameras.
Right, yeah, and they get to play it on the news. You don't get to see my father's face. Now, the reason they covered my dad's face is because anybody watching that news article that had pulled their own robbery would have been like, that's him! Well, how do you know? Put over his face. I can tell. So that's in some respect to protect his civil rights, but my brother was perp walked, and I was not. So I was not a bad, like, no one was like, hey, the 150-pound kid, let's show you bringing him in, because no cop wanted to, wants to pull in the little trout.
Right. So, it looks good. You bring in a big, dangerous.
Right. My brother was like, yeah, you got a 250-pound fucking animal on your arm that you're bringing in, and it's good. But I not only that, but if you ever get cuffed in front, they think you're a pussy.
Well, normally I watch a lot of body cam videos, and people will ask, "Can you put them in front?" And they're like, "No, we can't do that."
No, absolutely not. Because no, and when they came to get me, I didn't fight extradition after they arrested me. I was in New Hampshire, and Mass wanted me, and these 2 giant bags of fucking meat like 7 foot tall cops come up, and he holds the cuffs out to me, and he's like, "Am I gonna have a problem with you?" And I was like, "No." And it was almost like he just handed it to me. He's like, "Put them on if you want, or don't." Like, they cuffed me in the front,
Oh, really?
and I was pissed. I was so pissed because it's like them handing you a vagina and asking you to hold it. No offense to women, but um, so I'm driving down to Massachusetts, cuffed in the front, and I was happy because then you just got to sit on your fucking palms the whole time and go numb. And I was happy that I was cuffed in the front, but I was still pissed. So they bring me into the state police barracks in Massachusetts. Like, as soon as I walk in the door, all the other state police kind of look up from their desk, and a couple of them start saying, "Oh, is that the badass? You finally got the last badass. Oh, look, he doesn't look like much of a badass." And I don't know why this got into my head, but as soon as they took the cuffs off me, I made a little gesture like, like, like a little zit, like, gotcha. And my God, it's a big mistake. That was a big mistake. It was
Because they probably thought you were going to do something.
They
right?
thought I was going to reach for something, or I was going to try to run. And I've never seen more right hands reach for their back fucking weapon in my life. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
man, they're
buddy,
ready.
try it. Yeah, it was no way. But I don't know. It was just egotistical, and I don't think I would ever make that mistake again.
That's well, that's what you do in your 20s, dumb shit sometimes.
Young, dumb, and full of jewelry.
Pretty much. Oh, because you had mentioned when you were on America's Most Wanted, you said, "Oh, you called me a dirtbag at one time or something." So that's why I thought.
Yeah, no, it was while I was they let you sit backstage, like on the set while they're doing the rest of the show. And I remember America's Most Wanted, I only ever took interest in it in prison. So if you've never been in prison, man, they'll have a TV on the block, but you can't hear the fucking thing. Everyone's screaming their head off. They're playing dominoes. They're playing cards. Nobody. But when America's Most Wanted was on, you could hear a pin drop.
That's probably because I want to see
because it was that and it was cops. Mostly because those inmates want to see it. Like, hey, is that my brother?
Right. They got my buddy,
Yeah, holy shit. They just kind of keeping in touch with family, but it was just there was something about John Walsh that people respected, and I respect the guy. Like, here's a guy who really has had the worst that criminality could do to you. Take your kid,
your 6-year-old kid. Yeah.
It's fucked. It's just fucked. And people would always ask us, "Did you kill anybody? Did you ever murder anybody?" And if you flat out asked my dad that, he would look at you like you had 8 heads and be like, "Well, there's no money in it.
Right.
Why would you kill somebody? There's no money." And no, at no point did we ever, that never a thought in our minds. But, when they called me and they said, "Will you come on?" It was spawned from the Insider interview I did. So Insider, if you look up on YouTube,
that's the one I saw today.
Yeah, how crime works. And they were like, "Hey, come on out." And this is the wonderful part of it. And, I know you probably have a small budget and you didn't fly me anywhere. That's fucked up.
Right from your living room, man.
Yeah, this is great. I don't have any pants on, so there's a trade-off.
Oh, cool, perfect. And I'm glad I can't see you too, man.
Of course you are. But no, it just keeps opening doors, and I've been to New York twice. I did another podcast. America's Most Wanted opened some doors, and you saw that from America's Most Wanted. The Insider video got me America's Most Wanted. And I'm happy to go anywhere to tell the story, not because I'm proud of it, not because I'm waiting for Netflix to call so I can do a movie. It's when I first wrote the book, I started traveling to high schools, and they were dying for guest speakers that can come in because, if you see a kid that's in any type of trouble, whether it be drugs or a dysfunctional family, or God forbid, their dad is planning a string of 22 jewelry robberies over 5 years. Right. You want to nip that in the bud, but no teacher can begin to tell their story or help that kid in a way that's like, "Hey, I can relate because of." It right. Always ends up, sounding like lecturing. So they were so appreciative of anybody that could come in and capture the kids' attention and get them to be like, "Hey, no, I'm not going to rob jewelry stores, but I think kids need to know that if you fall in the shit and you get into trouble, and if you try hard and you work your ass off and you struggle, and life is still gonna suck."
Right. It's where it leads you.
No, but you can come back, man. You can come back from it, and at one point that I went into a high school, a teacher came up to me and said, a parent came up to me the other day and they said, "Hey, I don't know who you had as a guest speaker, but it opened a dialogue with my daughter that I have been unable to do up to this point." And that was one parent of the 16 years that I talked to schools. One parent said that, and that's all I need, man. That's it. That
Wow.
makes it worth it to me.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes those little, no pun intended, jewels, those are the ones that do it, man. They keep you, that's what drives you in a lot of cases.
Listen, yeah, there would be nothing about a Netflix deal. And I've talked to Netflix, and at this point, I've talked to Hollywood twice about potentially turning this into something. Number one, they don't need me. They can make it themselves. And number two, it's at the point now where it's not about content. One of the producers that I talked to was I forget his name, but he had just helped produce Dexter New Blood. And I'm on a Zoom call with him and two other producers in Hollywood. And they were like, "Listen, Brian, we'll be totally honest with you. We have, Netflix and CBS are purchasing stuff like this right now. But what they're going to purchase is the guy that has a shit story, no content, but 12 million followers." That assures them. Yeah, it's the problem. If you have people that can watch your pilot, a million people will see whatever advertisers are globbed onto it. That's what they're looking for now. And they're like,
and a lot of times people buy followers, man. I mean, here it is. You're the real,
right?
You're the real deal, man. You're telling the story as you lived it. So I mean that you can't get any realer than that, man. That's I don't know. For me as a consumer, that's what I like to see.
I'm with you.
But you're not some asshole that buys all their followers, and because of that, he's got 4 million followers on Twitter or Instagram, and we want to make sure we get this guy in. It's like, well, he might be full of shit.
And I had a friend at the time that was like, "Dude, if you had eaten some of your victims, they'd be all over it."
Yeah. Eaten and fucked your victim. Well, fucked and eaten your victims, I guess.
No, and that's the thing now that I really don't understand about what these current generations need to see, because I don't need to see what Jeffrey Dahmer did in a movie.
Right.
The documentary's enough for me to sit back and picture the fucking horror. But I don't need to see it acted out over multiple episodes on Netflix. I watched the first episode of that, and I was disgusted that anyone would want to watch someone act out what that monster did.
Well, and that's what's crazy, because to watch his actual interview, you're right. That was
chilling.
Yeah. Yes. And
it's more than enough for me.
Yeah. And then but it was better to hear him tell this story of what he did.
Yeah,
then watch some fuckface act it, and okay, I'm going to play Jeffrey Dahmer now, or whatever. It just, man, it did.
That's kind of Netflix's thing. They like to do a docuseries first, and they did this with Ted Bundy. The Ted Bundy documentary, unbelievably well done. And then they went and they did the movie with what's his name? I forget the idiot's name, but
let's see, not Ramirez.
It was Ted Bundy, and then the guy that played Ted Bundy in the movie was
I don't need.
You don't watch the movie. You don't want to watch somebody act out the documentary.
You know what? I probably wouldn't have. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I like the real, man. I'd rather hear it from the person who was there as opposed to some fuckface reading a script,
But true crime now is just taking off like crazy. The reason America's Most Wanted came back, because it was canceled, and it came back with his son, because I don't know, there's 2 or 3 networks that have converted to completely true crime.
Oh yeah. Reels is getting like that.
Yeah.
And I bet you A&E is kicking themselves in the ass after what happened.
Changing, right?
Yeah, well, now that's all the Garth or not even Garth Brooks, I other gay shit, the Taylor Swift story, or something, and you're just like, get the fuck out, man. I don't care about any of that.
Taylor has struggles.
Yeah, she's got struggles and stuff.
Exactly.
So, real quick, going back to the America's Most Wanted. So, what kind of guys were Callahan and John Walsh?
I didn't get to spend a lot of time with either one of them, but that's why when I went up, if you watch the interview, the very end of the interview where I say I'm honored that you called me a dirtbag was the beginning of the interview. And I
Oh,
wanted to go up there and I wanted to say to him, hey, you're the number one show in prison. And his rhetoric and calling people dirtbags is justified. And I
yes.
wanted to make a joke out of it and I wanted to make an impression to him. So I sat back that whole time watching them do this whole show. And they were filming me in the middle. I was the middle segment. And they're like, just go on. And I'm just so terrible with script. So
Yeah, me too.
they sent me the 4 questions they were going to ask me, and I studied them and I knew my answers because I've been telling this story and I lived it. And, I can keep my answers pretty succinct depending on who you are.
Right, right.
And so I'm in the green room with the producer and he's like, let's go over the questions because we want you to this is what we want you to say. Not that they wanted me to change any answer, but they were like, of the answers you've given, these are the 4 answers we like.
Oh, wow. So you
So
had to submit your answer to them?
We did it a pre-interview. So he just basically said, what is your story? And from the story, he said, okay, so when they ask you what you did, just, summarize 22 stores, $2.3 million, dad and brother, and be done. And they just want you to just go, go, go. Because I can imagine they get people in there that are like nightmares.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I'm just terrible with the script. So I'm back there with the producer, and this guy's just great. He's just a great guy, made me feel super comfortable. They rolled out the red carpet for me all the way from paying my expenses. And he starts looking at me weird after the 5th time because I went on like 9 different tangents. Every single answer was different. And finally he's looking at me funny. And I had to say, dude, I'm just a different person when I hit that stage. I can't prepare. Once the energy of a room hits me, I'll give you what you want.
Yes.
Exactly what I hoped had happened, because it wasn't 4 questions. They asked me like 6 or 7. They went off script. John Walsh went off script once I did the dirtbag thing. And they asked me questions that weren't on them.
That's, it's great. I had a guy on a couple weeks ago. He's a public speaker. I do public speaking too as a profession for my job. And, we were kind of talking about that a little bit, about where some people need a script to take a shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, do I pull my pants down first, then take the dump? Or do I sit on the toilet, then pull my pants down? So it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I just kind of roll, with whatever you're going to say. I get the vibe of the place or the person and kind of rock from there,
An energy thing. It's like whatever energy I'm getting, I'm going to try to match. But you got to understand that that's also stand-up comedy. And what I think most people don't see the value of is you take a speech class in most bachelor's degree now, and that's just getting up in front of a crowd and delivering facts.
Yeah.
But when you do stand-up, you're delivering facts with a point of view.
Right.
You could have 5 people can tell the same story, but you're going to hear 5 different stories.
Right. Right.
And that's how it should be.
Do it.
Yeah. And if you can develop a point of view, you can get on the stage and you get like the best of the best now. Kevin Hart can get on stage and say something that isn't funny and level a stadium with it.
Yeah. Just because it's Kevin Hart.
Right. And he knows the energy of a room and he knows how to tap into it. And people are bought into his talking. And as a public speaker, all the best public speaker get buy-in. The audience is sitting back waiting for you to give to them. But I've seen other comedians that take that energy and that audience does not like them.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, obviously they haven't worked the room properly, or they don't feel, that like they've, I don't know, that they can vibe with the crowd, or they had. There we go again with the script. They probably had some kind of previous idea of how it was going to go and who was going to be there, and it didn't work out that way at all.
Yeah, and when it doesn't go that way, they're fucked.
Yeah, yeah. And
there's some adaptability that needs to be there in your material to deal with a crowd that's like, hey, we don't like this material. Try something else, buddy.
Right, right. So now you don't go in with anything specific in mind. And that's the thing that I'm sorry, it's a point of contention. My boss and I always go back and forth. She's like, well, you need to know what you're going to say. You need to know. I don't. I don't write. Right. I don't do scripts, So I feel it. I totally, I'm on board with that, man. That's and you obviously do public speaking now with, your thing. You go to schools, right?
Yep. I'm a personal trainer by trade, so man, I talk all day.
Oh yeah, yeah. So this is weight training, right?
Yeah, it's I've written a couple of books. I've been on a pilgrimage to try to fix what I see as the major problem in fitness, and basically it's we have a success rate that would close down most businesses. Not
Mm,
There are very few people that right now can walk into a gym and achieve the promise that we promise them when they come in. Is you could look like this, you can be like this, you can move like this, and our success rate is terrible.
yeah.
And I started to look at that and I started to say, well, how do you really change that? What metrics would you use? How would you measure that? What type of programming? What exercises do have value? And I came up with this system of neurological training, neuromuscular training. And I found a problem that every single person that I have come across, regardless of the shape that you're in, has. I can
What?
literally tell you exactly how your brain is talking to your left side, different from your right. And it's the same in every person that I have looked at.
It's interesting.
It's
So our brains
unbelievable.
communicate with the different parts of our body, or different sides of our body differently, or
Well, I can tell you right now, most of fitness is paying attention to muscle movements. You are training muscles, but right
right.
now your brain only recognizes patterns. And how do I know that? Well, the two degrees that I have in psychology, we spent an inordinate amount of time on facial recognition, the part of the brain that is probably one of the most strongest, other than the base of your brain that handles when you shit and when you breathe and when you blink.
Right.
Right above that is where you have facial recognition. And why is that probably one of the most developed parts of our brain? Well, you need to know who's friendly. Your brain will always organize something abstract into a face first. It is
Mm,
the most recognized pattern on the planet, to the point that we can go down to the primate level and see that they have just as much or as sophisticated as a facial recognition software as we do. Where does movement happen? Right next to that. So
right. The
movement
brain
is
area.
innate, right? So nobody taught you how to walk.
Right.
Your parents didn't sit you in front of a Google video or a YouTube video on how to walk.
Well, they might now.
Right. Well, they sat back and they watched you do it. So there are movement patterns that are innate.
Right. Right.
And those are the patterns that I'm looking back at. And it's not mine. This was something that was happening back in the 90s when I first got into the field post prison. And we always knew that left-right asymmetries were an issue. Like right now, you can go to the doctors and say, hey, my left side is weaker than my right. And he's going to be like, yeah, so what? It's accepted. It's generally accepted. What I have discovered is that if we were to look at all of your joint actions, and there's only 6 or 7 of them, flexion, extension, rotation, um, not the muscle actions, because there's 600 muscles. You get all kind of confused. Oh, you had a calf muscle, we should work it out. Here, if you look at neurologically what those muscles do collectively, I can prove that half of your joint actions exist on your right side and the exact opposite other half exist on the other side.
That's crazy.
I see
So
it
you tend to favor one side. Is that what you're saying?
It's not favoring. It's basically the only way that your brain can balance against gravity is to have equal but opposite joint actions at the ready. And if I can prove that you're only 50% proficient at movement on your right side and the exact opposite 50% exists on your left side, right now you have a 50% chance of surviving a destabilizing event. Now, that could be running in a line. That every sport is a destabilizing event. Just walking upstairs is a destabilizing event. And to the extent that you can survive one of those, which means gravity is going to topple you, you may have a serious injury or no injury at all. Now, kids can fall and they get up and they move right along, but grandma falls in the tub and she's dead in a month.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So we are the gym and exercise in general is all hypergravity. I hand you dumbbells and I am increasing the amount of gravity you have to deal with.
Right. Now you're lifting something that's heavier.
Correct. Now I'm increasing your gravity. So the hopes that when you're not holding that weight, that gravity will not exhibit or exhibit as much of an influence over you as without that quote unquote strength. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. As a matter of fact, I can prove that you are only overloading patterns you already have. So when people walk into a gym, it's like they're walking into third grade, and we're asking them to stay in third grade, regardless of how many times they come, what they're eating, what they're doing, what their brain is checked out. Most gyms are built around the idea that we're going to check your brain out while you work your body.
So basically, yeah, this is what you're going to do. As long as you go to the gym, you'll be good, kind of
Right.
thing, right?
Just come. Well, it's the same as church. Come to church, pray, and you'll have all the things that we promise you. I tell you, it's not true, man. What is our failure rate? Our failure rate is staggering.
That's wild. Well, my brother's a personal trainer, and he tells me all the time, like he gets on me about, because I like doing cardio. I'm a cardio guy, and my thing is trying to lose weight. He says, "Oh no, man, you need to do resistance training. That's a lot better."
We've been saying that for 70 years, man. When's it going to be true?
Right.
Seriously, no, we've been preaching that ever since I got in this fucking field back in 1998.
Resistance training.
Gotta get strong. Gotta get strong. It's the best. Studies done. Well, who gives a fuck about the studies? Because I can tell you right now, our failure rate is above 90%. Meaning no gym is based on a result. It's not a result-based business. McDonald's is a result-based business. You hungry? I chuck a cheeseburger down your fucking throat. I give you the result of a satiated belly. But gyms are like, hey, come here, use this shit the way we tell you to. And when you don't get to your results in 6 months, that's your fucking fault. Have you ever talked to a trainer that didn't blame you for the fact that you weren't where you wanted to be?
No way.
Never. No. He's not like, it's our fault. Sorry, we fucked up. Well, that's what I'm saying. We fucked up and I'm sorry. But I can get you results in a day. I fixed a 25-year-old shoulder problem in this woman in a day. All I asked that joint to do was what I knew that right side joint wouldn't do. And it won't do what the left side does. Right now, fitness has ignored a law of our physical universe, which for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So you try to fire both biceps at the same time. Guess what you're getting? Only one of them is really going to fire because your brain needs to balance against gravity by offering the opposite on the other side. So fitness ignored a law of our physical universe when it decided to take our body and treat it the same from left to right.
That's funny. So all this stuff about, you got to do this, you got to do that. People just tell you, I guess it just depends on what works for you, huh?
No, it's bullshit. All of it's bullshit. Nothing is going to work for you until you start addressing the fact that your brain cannot produce. Like right now, I'm going to ask you, your left leg, are you right-handed?
I'm right-handed, yes.
Okay, your left leg right now is further away from your midline, your belly button, than your right leg is, correct?
It probably, I would say so.
Now pull your left leg into the midline. Pull it in and touch your right leg with your left leg, and you're not going to hold it there long.
No, you're right. It doesn't feel right.
You're going to hate it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right.
That's what I'm talking about. So right now, your left leg never comes to the midline. Your right leg never leaves the midline. Dude, I've never seen you, and I can tell you that's what you're doing right now.
That's crazy. Yeah, because the feeling, it's just like,
crazy. Yeah, it's like, what? This sucks. Let's stop it right away. You cannot lock your right elbow right now and hold it locked for any length of time. And that's probably where your left elbow is right now.
My left elbow, actually, both arms. I'm in a chair with arms on it, so both arms are kind of locked on the arm of the chair.
So straighten your left arm and notice that your elbow just locks. You don't have to ask for that tricep to stay on. Now lock your right elbow, and that right tricep will not let your right elbow stay locked.
That's interesting.
You keep unlocking it, correct?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, now, in both of those scenarios, I can go exactly to the muscles that are causing that. Your right bicep is bigger than your left, correct?
Yeah, I think I have better. Yeah. I think
not bigger. It's just shorter, meaning that you can't lock that elbow because your bicep keeps pulling it out of lock. On the other side, on your left side, your left tricep allows you to put it into lock because it's way stronger than your right. I have equal but opposite. Your right bicep is stronger than your left, but your left tricep is stronger than your right. That's physics, dude. That's never going to fix that.
That's great. How did you know I was right-handed? Just out of curiosity, or you just guessed?
I asked you.
I
asked you about 4 seconds ago, you jackass.
Well, we're talking about a lot of shit, and I'm sober.
But I'll tell you something. In a left-handed person, I'm left-handed, but you got to look at the statistics too, because only 10% of our world population is truly what they would consider left-handed. Everybody else is a mixture of both. And And when did you become side dominant? What does a side dominant duck look like? The fucking thing just swims in a circle until it dies. How about that? Now, you weren't side dominant when you learned how to walk. Where did you become side dominant? Where did we ask you to only use your fine motor skills in writing, in school? School asked you to only use your dominant side. If you went to a Catholic school and you were left-handed, nuns tried to kick the shit out of you to take it out of you. I was one of those people. I think that it starts when you become side dominant.
So what makes you become side dominant?
I think it's when you go to school.
Huh.
You are implanting on a growing, developing brain fine motor skills on one side. Now, if you ask that student on every other day to write with their left hand, we wouldn't have this problem.
Well, I got something that's going to fuck with you because it hasn't come up yet, and I haven't told you this, but I'm blind. I've been blind since birth, so I never wrote. I didn't learn how to sign my name until I was like a teenager. You know, that's what my dad would show.
How did you manipulate the world around you?
Obviously I did all my assignments in Braille, so I was typing with both hands. I was using a Perkins Brailler. That's
reading Braille with both hands.
Usually my right hand was my more dominant. That was always ahead of my left hand when I was reading Braille.
You know, you bring up an amazing question. You're taking out a major sense from this scenario, but you are still right-handed, correct?
Yes.
Right. So it's there. Now, I can't prove that school made you side dominant. And in my discovery of this whole thing, and I've only really discovered it in the past year with all of the other research that I've done on the human body, I've been working with a prominent trauma surgeon down here, and he's my client. He just came in to be exercised, and he's just somebody that I can talk shop with.
Okay.
And him and I have been looking at this, and I've been training him in the method that I developed to address this specifically. And he said that kind of the same thing as you. He goes, you know, Bryan, I know this makes sense, but first I have to figure out whether or not this is changeable. Maybe everyone is like this. And I asked him after a couple of months of him saying that if he still felt that way, and he's like, no way, it's definitely changeable.
Well, here's one thing. When I was a kid, my dad used to take me to the batting cages, and my dad's a lefty.
A blind kid?
Yeah, well, he'd stand behind me. That's what happened. He would stand behind me with the bat, and again, he's a lefty. So he taught me how to bat like a lefty, even though I'm a righty. You know, so if I were to bat, if I was gonna, go to a batting cage, I'd have to do it as a lefty. It's the weirdest fucking thing.
Right. So, and that for those kind of situations, yes, now you're talking about being implanted or imprinted with movement patterns you wouldn't otherwise have been imprinted with if your dad didn't do that.
Right.
Now,
exactly.
There are probably any other kid in that same scenario whose dad didn't do that as a left-hander probably couldn't report the same thing.
No. And it's just because my dad was basically manipulating my body. You know, he'd stand behind me, and then when we heard the ball go,
your dad brought a blind kid to a batting cage, so I guess he's manipulating your body.
Well, he didn't put me in there by myself. It was him and I, and he stood behind me, and it was quite the kind of a cool thing to do as a father.
Oh shit! Well, who drove home? You?
Yes, yeah. Well, actually, I had to wait till I got my driver's license, but
Holy shit. Wow,
no, that was another thing we used to do too, where he'd tie a rope to his waist and then my waist, and we'd run. So that was kind of a thing. Matter of fact, I had a friend who's a teacher, and I guess she has a blind girl in her class or whatever, and she's like, yeah, could you believe this woman wants to tie a rope to her waist and tie a rope to the girl's waist and have her run for PE? I said, man, that's what I used to do, because I'd be scared to run. My dad would say, well, there's nothing in front of you, just run. But there's still that part, and you probably know this from just how you self-preservation kind of thing, and you're like, yeah, you tell me there's nothing in front of me, but something will fucking catch me, whether it's something in the ground, maybe a stump or something you trip over, so
I gotta tell you the value of that to me, because what you have right there is not brain activity. You have something that can override the brain, which is the central nervous system. So if you touch a hot stove, do you make the choice to pull it away? We know right now that hot and cold are the same sensation. So your brain would have to take a few extra seconds to feel or discern whether or not the touching that hot stove was hot or cold. And that would cause a lot more damage. Your central nervous system pulls your hand away from that stove, and it doesn't even need the brain's decision to do it. So right now, when I tie something around you as a blind person, your central nervous system ran you through that fucking park. And that's a brain that says, we're changing him tomorrow. We're adapting today to that, which I find enormous value to that. If I walk into a session and I'm assessing you for the first time and I pull out a knife and I say, hey, if you get stabbed, you're not in shape. Guess what? Central nervous system is going to light up. And I can tell you right now, if you go into your kitchen and you put a knife in your left hand and you try to cut stuff with it, your brain is going to freak out.
Oh yeah. Oh, I already know.
So
I already know. Proof. Well, I'll tell you what. I remember as a kid, I was at camp and I got stung on the hand by a bee. And apparently I'm allergic to bees because my hand swelled up to where I couldn't even bend my fingers. Well, again, my right hand's my dominant hand. I wipe my ass with my right hand. So I had to use my left hand to wipe my ass. That was very difficult.
That's where we get the term shit show.
It was a shit show, man. So I don't know how I did.
I encourage, like, listen, like I said, all your fine motor skills, like brushing your teeth, are in your right hand right now. So go. The first time I tried to brush my teeth with my left hand, I had toothpaste in my eyebrow.
It's crazy.
I went into my kitchen. I scrambled eggs with my non-dominant hand once, and there was not a single egg left in the bowl. It was all over my kitchen.
It's so crazy.
It is, man.
That fucks us up.
That's a brain thing. That is a neuromuscular problem that right now fine motor skills only exist on your dominant side, and that couldn't exist in nature, man. Imagine a monkey without fine motor skills on their non-dominant side trying to swing from vine to vine. That poor fucker is falling off,
he's
man.
Dead. Yeah, he's gonna.
Imagine a gazelle that pulls to the right. You ain't ever running away from a lion, man. No way.
That lion will catch you every time.
So I'm saying that side dominance doesn't exist anywhere other than in us in nature, because you don't see it anywhere. Elephants don't come and say, dude, my fucking rotator cuff's killing me. Right. It just doesn't happen. Now, why do they survive? Or maybe because they can't talk, they can't complain of these things, but throughout their lifespan, they don't tend to have degenerative problems the way that we do. And we accept it. Like, when you go to the doctors and they image your spine and they just say it's normal degeneration, fuck you. I can tell you right now, because of that side dominance, you are using your spine to move in every step. And if you're using your spine to move, you can't really sit back and wonder why the discs have worn down, why the message system isn't as effective anymore, why right now you can only push out of the front of your right foot, but when you do a squat, you only push out of the heel of your left foot. Like, there are certain things right now that I can predict that you do that is in everyone. And until we all address or come up with a unifying principle in any exercise arena, we don't know what we're trying to fix. Why would I send you to Pilates or yoga or to the leg press? Based on what I look at, every trainer in the world right now is programming based on what worked for them. And I'm not even sure I can prove that anything worked for them other than them looking the way you want to look. And I'll tell you, I got a trainer right now that has an 8-pack. She's a beast, but she's had 3 kids. And you would look at her and be like, what are you doing for abs? And she's going to give you the same list. The pot-bellied motherfucker that's going 6 days a week, same exercises. But you can see her abs. You'll always be able to see her abs. You've never not been able to see her abs. And I can't go up to her and ask her how she got them, because she didn't do anything other than have a genetic predisposition for leanness in that area.
Yeah, you're right. It's all, you can't. That was another thing with my brother. He's like, yeah, we're the same genetic makeup, and we could have the same build. I'm like, I don't know about that, dude.
You don't have sight. He does. End of story. End of comparison.
Well, actually, he has the same eye disorder in one eye that I have in both, but in his other eye, he's got 20.
Sake. How did you guys make it?
We did, man. We did. It's hereditary is what it is. So his vision in his good eye is 20/30, but in his bad eye, obviously, he has no vision. But he does jujitsu and all this other wild shit, which, my mom preferred he not do. And he actually had a scare last year where he got hit in his good eye and he was seeing floaters and a bunch of other things. And he was like, he thought, oh shit, am I going to go blind? And, I thought, man, that's going to be tough because I couldn't teach him how to be a blind person as a, you know what I mean? As funny as that sounds.
Jesus, I mean, it's got to be way harder to become blind than be born blind. And
Absolutely. Because this to
believe
me
those
is
the
natural.
words that are coming out of my mouth.
You're right. No, but you're on top of your game there because you're right. People will look at me. The assumption is, oh, well, you have vision, or you have a little vision. You must have had, or you went blind later in life. And I'm like, why do you say that? Well, because you do so well. No, actually, it's because I've been this way all my life. It's what I'm used to. You know.
You don't know anything.
Yeah. Wow. This conversation took quite the
it really is. Now I'm interviewing you, motherfucker.
It's kind of cool though. So man, let's give it obviously your book, your podcast, give all the info about that. Any info you want people to know?
The podcast right now is Family Jewels Podcast. If you don't put the podcast part in it, you're gonna get Gene Simmons and his nonsense. And there's a couple of other podcasts out there, but it's Family Jewels Podcast. There's 4 seasons. Start at episode 1 back in season 1, and you'll hear my dad right away in some of the calls. The book, I like the book, and the book is on Amazon, but right now Amazon has taken $8 of the $12 that I'm charging.
Damn.
And so
$4 for your book, huh?
Yeah, I would prefer you go to the podcast, and that's where you're really going to hear the story. 2 years ago, my father and brother both committed suicide on the same day.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was it's been a really tough time. It's been a really tough 2 years. This story, I didn't see it going this way. I saw eventually me and my dad and potentially my brother doing like video podcasting and all kind of telling this story. If this ever got to any type of media or ever went to anything Hollywood, I had always hoped. My dad, when you hear him on the podcast, he's a proud parent, man. He's proud that he did this. He has never apologized for this. He's never apologized to me for bringing me into this. And I honestly think he would do it all over again if he had the opportunity. So
I'd be interested to hear what he sounds like, just to hear his voice. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm definitely going to check that out. One thing I got to give you shit for, because I was doing poking around. I was hoping to get your book on Audible. Because obviously I could listen to it. And I'm like, fuck, he doesn't have it in Audible. So
no, I got to tell you, I just hate reading in front of people.
Yeah, reading out loud.
Thing for me, I get so much anxiety that I can see the word, but I'll say something completely different. I'll fuck up left and right.
Right.
No, I did not. And again, when you put it on Amazon, it's all like, I have a Kindle version of the book on Amazon right now that they don't charge for. Like, I don't even know what the Amazon like legal stuff is. At some point, they just start doing what they want with your material.
Just whatever. Yeah. So then
it's like YouTube. I have a video right now. If you go up Bryan Sobolewski on YouTube, you will see the first stand-up comedy video I've ever done. And I kind of wanted to take it down because at one point of me trying to find jobs, I didn't want anyone to be able to go on YouTube and see me talking about robberies, because that's my stand-up. I talk about the robberies. I talk about the fucked up family. I talk about stealing the house. And at one point I wanted to bury it and I couldn't. YouTube wouldn't let me. I couldn't remember the account that I signed in on before. And I still to this day have no control over that video, whether it's public, private, anything. All my other stuff I do, but I do not over that video.
Well, even the way you tell your story, there is some comic relief in it. Like the thing you were saying about the partition and,
To me, there has to be. And that was the gift of my mom, and I got my sense of humor from my mom. My dad's not funny, never was. My mom was always like, "Listen, we're fucked up. We're a fucked up family. We've always been a fucked up family, and holidays were the time to sit around the table and reminisce about it, and then laugh about
it." So that's cool.
Yeah, it totally is. It's like my mother for years loved Neil Diamond. And she would get drunk and sing "Sweet Calamine."
Oh God, Sweet Calamine!
Yeah, she thought it was about a fucking mosquito bite.
Sweet Calamine.
Yeah, Sweet Calamine.
Oh, that's great. Because we're always talking about, they call them mandagreens, where you think a song said something it didn't say.
Yeah.
Sweet Calamine. That's a new one, man. That's good. I like it.
So no, she was just delightful, and that's what she taught me about this is I would very much, I'm gonna replay this shit over in my head anyway. And now it's time to figure out, that's fucking funny. The fact of my brother, the first version of my book was called No Bullets for Kev. Because I found that to be just hilarious. He never had any fucking bullets. Fuck you.
Wow.
You don't give the silverback, you don't give the baby a nail gun.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just the last thing you need in a fucking armed robbery is to have the person next to you that's supposed to be shooting at them turning the gun on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, in your story way back when with the 22, what does he do? Shoots at a pillow sitting right next to you on the couch. Like, what the fuck?
That was my brother, man. The nightmare that I was already realizing in my head, he wanted to bring to reality.
Wow. Man.
So yeah, it's the podcast. You can go on YouTube right now and look up How Crime Works. I'm the jewelry thief. Scroll down. I'm not, I didn't get as many views as some of the ones on there. Like it's really hard to figure out what's going to hit. Like there's a guy on there, I think from the Japanese gang or something that's got like 6.8 million views and mine's up to like 1.3 million. But
I'm not sure how that's done either. Because
but Insider pretty much put me on the map. They flew me. They have a studio right across from the 9/11 memorial, which is just the eeriest fucking thing on the planet if you've ever seen it. They were very professional. They did an interview. When you see it, it was basically they would ask the question and they would say, please repeat the question in a statement before you answer. So they just string along those 23 minutes as if and all they wanted to know about was the business side.
Right.
Well, this podcast will be more in depth to the whole story. And the one I just did one called Camp Gagnon. And he was in Brooklyn, New York. So he flew me up there. That was a video podcast. And he interviewed me for 3 hours.
Oh, wow. Well, we've been going for about 2, I think.
Yeah. And I imagine you're going to edit a lot of this and stuff and try to get down.
We don't edit. That's one thing. We don't edit shit. We just let it go up. And,
all right. Well, let's start over. Hold on. The first robbery with and I think that with Insider, lots of questions were raised, and then people see me on America's Most Wanted, and then when they're digging around for more information, these 2 podcasts will be ideal for people getting, a bigger bite of the story. So
yeah, well, you were definitely more what's the word? I don't want to say controlled, but you seem more obviously PG on America's Most Wanted. You'd said things
I was hammered. I was fucking hammered. You have no idea how drunk I was in that.
Were you?
No. Okay.
I was gonna say you seem very like, well, even you use the term, because they said, what would you say to these jewel thieves right now? And you said, well, you'd be in heaps of trouble. And I'm thinking, damn, that sounds like some shit your kindergarten teacher would say to you.
No, that is exactly what I would say to the dude. I'm like, dude, you're fucked, man, because now you're on America's Most Wanted. That's what you really say. That has reached beyond any arm of the law.
Right. Well, that's it. That's what you wanted to say. You're fucked, but obviously you had to keep it.
But I couldn't say that on TV. So I was subdued and I was sort of holding it back. I love platforms like this because I love to swear, man. My mother was an expert swearer. But you gotta, that was national TV, but you got to do what they tell you to do, because like I have a buddy that's up in Massachusetts that is, stand-up comedy wise, he's crushing it. He just sold out the Wilbur, and he contacted me after the America's Most Wanted. He's like, dude, you have a TV credit now. He's like, I don't have a TV credit. And I can basically say to you, I've been on America's Most Wanted, and where's your head go? It doesn't go to, as the consultant. It goes right to, oh shit.
All right. They brought me in on America's Most Wanted of all shows, So I am a true crime. You could say now I'm a true crime guru in some ways, So
on my resume.
That is cool, man. Well, hey, listen, hang on with me real quick before after I end this, just for a second. And wow, well, this has been the Nothing Sacred interview with Bryan Sobolewski, and I am Maxwell Silverhammer, and that's the story there. Bryan, thanks for joining us, man.
My pleasure.
All right.
We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred.
With Maxwell Silverhammer.
We are nothing sacred. With cruise control, we are nothing sacred.